Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going around the net with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. So on the docket for today, we're checking in with all of our blue chips. We have some Chase and American Express lounge updates, as well as Peloton and Chase, partnering again to help you hit those New Year's goals, and some updates on the Delta Amex card lineup as well. The Venture X is, its brother business card version, basically updating its name, and we'll check in with the government as well, who's claiming they're going to save us $9 billion, but I don't think it's exactly what it seems when it comes to credit card fees. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, let's lead off here with Chase. So, first up, we've seen Chase and Peloton partner on a few different things before, primarily on the Sapphire cards. But this time, apparently, Peloton has righted the ship. They're no longer going under, as I thought that's what was happening, but seems to be they're good to go again and ready to market. So, they're running a new partnership with Chase for the Sapphire Reserve and Sapphire Preferred. This time you can get elevated multipliers if you buy some of their gear. So specifically, the Sapphire Reserve is going to get you 10x back on select stuff, which basically means a Peloton bike, a treadmill, rowing machine, or a guide. Not sure what the guide is. If you know, you can let us know down below. Now, the details here, it has to be of $250, which shouldn't be hard at all. There is a limit of 50,000 points earned, and this is good through March of 2025. Sapphire Preferred, same exact story, except it's 5% back, and it caps at 25,000 points, still good through March of 2025. So overall, what I say, if, they're giving you something and they don't raise the price, then, if you can use it, great. If not, well, no big deal because it didn't cost you anything. So I think this is, we've seen this before as a kind of like a marketing play from Peloton. So there's that if you are interested. Now, we also move to some Chase Sapphire Lounge updates. This time, Mr. Diamond is planting his flag in Austin Airport, potentially opening a new Sapphire Lounge there, even though we've yet to open any Sapphire Lounges. Well, the one in Hong Kong did open, but that was more of like a rebranding of the club, which is, Chase's partner in this. It's also why they're on the Priority Pass network. So view from the wing, this is where I found this at. But they basically found a building permit for the Austin airport that actually says, it's a Sapphire Lounge. Now, the application actually says incomplete, so I don't know if this is like finalized per se, but they are trying to get the space. Now, the other lounge areas are Boston, Dallas, Vegas, LaGuardia, Philly, Phoenix, San Diego, Dallas, and then, of course, we talked about Hong Kong. Boston was supposed to open first. I think that has been delayed. So again, we haven't seen any official lounges over here yet. I'm more so just passing it on. I don't think there's anything much to talk about until they actually open one and we see how good it is and how they handle the influx of people, given that you can get in on a Priority Pass membership because of the partnership with the club. But, if you frequent through that airport, let us know down below what you're hoping to see. Now, with that, if you're not a Sapphire Lounge fan, well, you may not be a Centurion Lounge fan anymore either. Again, this is more of a PSA reminders. We've talked about it before, but as we are in February, that means American Express's Platinum Card guest rules do kick in now for the Centurion Lounge. So now you will have to have spent $75,000 on that card in the previous year to continue getting your 2 free guests per visit. So there is a spend tracker in-app from what I'm told, and additionally, I believe you will be getting an email if you qualify that says, hey, you're allowed to bring 2 guests in, and that'll be good through January of 2024, and then you'd have to have spent another $75,000 in 2023 to continue the trend. If you prefer, or it's easier, that you can add authorized users onto your Platinum Card. I think you get 3 for a total of $175, and if you wanted to add another one, it would be more. Obviously, this is Amex's pitch to, 1, fight overcrowding, and number 2, much like Netflix is doing, try to get more value out of folks by getting either authorized user money or getting people to get their own card altogether. I do think it's a little bit annoying considering that, most people don't travel alone, so, what are you going to do? Just tell them to go wait outside? I actually might do that. That's why I probably travel alone now, but, let me know down below how you plan on handling that and what your thoughts are for you Centurion Lounge visitors. Now, on the Amex train still, if you don't like the Platinum Card because of that, you're looking for other lounges where there are the Delta Amex cards. The Reserve at least does get you lounge interest to Centurion and Delta Sky Clubs for a little bit less of a fee, which may look more enticing now because Delta is officially adding a new credit to it, which I think is actually pretty decent. for a change. They're calling it Take Off 15. Get it? It's like take off like a plane, then take off 15% like a discount. The people in the marketing department love that name, which is not bad. I love a good pun. But we've talked about this before, but we didn't know that it was going to come to all the cards. Well, basically all the cards except for the blue one. So this is going to be the gold, platinum, and reserve on both the personal and the business side. So you can get up to 15% off on the mileage portion of an award ticket when you use those cards. So really what they mean is, there's the core ticket price, and at the end they tack on the taxes and government charges and all that. That part, I don't believe, counts as a 15% discount, the same way you usually have to pay with that cash no matter what. So I think overall this is actually a pretty good benefit. Now, if you're someone who keeps the Platinum or the Reserve just for the Companion Pass once a year, then I don't think it's that big of a deal to you. Although I did learn back when I had the Platinum card that to use the Companion Pass, you also have the book with the same card associated to it. So you would still get Companion Pass plus 15% off, which does help, especially because I believe those Delta multipliers aren't really that competitive, though they are, on par for what other airline cards offer for their respective airlines. Now, if you're someone who has the Reserve and you're putting a ton of spend on Delta, then I do think this will add up over time. It's actually a nice little, update, little add-on, I think, to make the cards a little bit more useful. So it's nice to see them expand to all the cards where originally we just thought it was going to be for the Reserve. Now with that, if you're into a different type of all-arounder travel cards and, not a personal one but more of a business one, well then Capital One is back to more so remind us that the Venture X does have a business counterpart. Now this seems like a new card. I've actually been asked this a little bit. It's not a new card. So they had Venture X, obviously, then they had a Venture X business card, but it was actually called the Spark Travel Elite. So the Spark Travel Elite basically mirrors the Venture X personal version, same annual fee, same multiplier, so we don't really need to go through all of that. But now they are rebranding it as the Venture X Business, which is probably a more apt name because that's kind of what it's always been known as. Granted, Spark is their business line, so I can see where they were going, but, it just makes more sense. And as someone who's changed the name of this channel and multiple things I've worked on multiple times, I understand it. Now, the bonus here is pretty interesting. It's 250,000 miles. They do give you about 6 months to hit it. It's going to be a total of 50,000 in spend. It is kind of broken up in a 2-tranche deal, which is nice. I think 10,000 in the first 3 months and then the remaining the next 3 months, so total. Now, the only catch here is that you do have to go through a business relationship manager to get the card. Now, I don't know how hard it's going to be to find a business relationship manager. I don't know Capital One well enough to know they draw a distinction from like business banker, business relationship manager, what have you. I'd imagine if you call Capital One or even those Capital One cafes and you put in a little bit of work, you might be able to find one if you're interested. This is actually a really good offer, I think, for those who can hit the spend. Again, for a card that actually does pay for itself, and it does get 2% back on everything in mileage-wise. So even then, that also makes it look even better. So, let us know down below if you know a business relationship manager or how you got one, if anyone is interested. 'Cause I do think this is good. Again, we didn't say anything bad about the regular Venture X, so, this one, again, it's not a new card, just a rebranding, but I think it works. So with that, we'll move to our last story, and this sees the CFPB, or Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, claiming that they're going to save consumers, Americans, $9 billion a year. So this is interesting because it kind of ties into the previous story we talked about last week from the Federal Reserve that did a study. They're basically saying, hey, who pays for our credit card rewards? Well, it's unsophisticated borrowers who pay interest and fees and all that. Basically, they keep the rewards programs going so all of us can cash in on it, which isn't terribly groundbreaking, but hey, it's still interesting to look at the research there. So this story is basically again CFPB government organization. They were tasked from this administration to go through not only with banks but just in general find a bunch of junk fees and get rid of them to make sure people aren't getting ripped off. Now, they were looking at other things besides banks. I think Ticketmaster came up. A lot of those like fees that get tacked on after the original price, like resort fees, processing fees, things like that. They was all, on the table. So specifically though for banking, they was zeroed in on late fees. So what they're talking about here, they're saying, hey, on average, if you have a late payment, it means not even pay your full bill, just so there's a minimum payment you have to make. If you don't even make that, you're usually charged maybe $30 is what they're saying. And they're saying, really, banks, it doesn't cost you $30 to run your late payment process, so we don't think that you should be profiteering off of that. Instead, we think you should charge either like flat $8 or maybe like a percentage, like a cap it at like 25% of whatever the late payment was going to be. So not even the total payment, just the late payment amount. And, so they're going to make a proposal. We'll go through quickly the highlights of their proposal, and then we'll take a look at the American Bankers Association's response to that. So here's the CFPB proposal: lower the immunity provision dollar amount to late fees to $8, and the automatic annual inflation adjustment, and cap the late fee at 25% of the required minimum payment. So that's what they'd want to change. Now, in addition to that, the American Bankers basically responded, and I won't read all of this, but their quote basically says, today's extreme proposal will harm consumers by reducing competition and increasing the cost of credit. It will result in more late payments, higher debt, and lower credit scores, and is inconsistent with the Card Act's encouragement of responsible credit management. Now they go on to say some more things that you can read if you want. I don't think that's actually their best defense ever that they've done, that it's going to hurt consumers. I believe there is some truth in there in the Credit Card Act. Because part of the Credit Card Act, was like, to make it easier to understand your statement and things like that. So in a roundabout way, yes, if you dropped it to $8, it does make it easier to not make your payment on time. I mean, competition, I don't know, maybe. Some banks, I think like Apple Card advertises no fees ever, even for late payments. But I just don't think it's their best argument. I do think their best argument piece was the responsibility of it. Now, this might be a unpopular opinion, but for me, I don't know. This doesn't really seem worth the fight, honestly. I think banks should be able to charge what they want to charge. I think the thing to focus on is just continuing to hammer in the disclosures and the tools at your disposal. And by what I mean by that is, yes, as someone with multiple cards from multiple issuers, it does get, tough to remember when payments are due, and it would be nice if the bank simply automatically sent you a reminder. So most recently, one of my Citi cards, I had to go through the notifications systems or settings and set up, hey, email me when, as soon as the payment, is due. Like, so that you have that 21 week or that 3 week grace period. As soon as the statement closes, email me and I'll make the payment. I think a much simpler play was like, can we turn that on by default, or can we shove that in the customer's face? Because if you open up a card or a bank account with a lot of these banks, the major banks, you talk about e-statements, they'll shove the e-statement thing right in your face as part of the application process because they don't want to mail you e-statements. Now, other smaller banks don't shove it in your face, but they'll also charge you $3 for e-statements and things like that, which is also equally as annoying. But, I don't know. I don't think this really solves the problem, and it's hard to say. Like, the fee is in the card member agreement that they send you. I just think a better approach would be saying, hey, use the tools in place, and then if you still miss the payment with that, because we're not talking about paying the whole thing, just the minimum, you still have auto pay at your disposal. Again, you still have the payment notifications. It could be an email or text message. I think that's enough, and then you can charge what you want to charge. Will this make things more expensive? Probably, because the banks are going to get their money from somewhere, so I could be a little bit biased because I know enough to set this stuff up, but that seems to be the easier route than just telling them what they have to charge. Now, if it helps you out, then, great, good for you. I guess $9 billion in savings. It just really seems to me like they latched on to a big number and are trying to count that as a win. And it is a win to some degree. There's an argument to be made. Maybe banks shouldn't be profiting off this, but at the same time, they've never lied about who they are. They're, they're for-profit entities, man. They're, credit union, I don't know, maybe they're not supposed to be for profit, but major banks, they're for profit. And, I don't really see a problem with them charging that. Just make the tools harder to avoid because we know they can do it. They do it with other things when it benefits them. Again, like not sending out statements. It's my same thing about, they remind you about a bunch of different things when you log into the app, but they'll never remind you that your annual fee is coming due. That's annoying to me. Things like that are somewhat tricky, somewhat a little bit deceptive when you have the power to do it and you choose to do nothing because it's in your best interest. But again, it's up to us to understand the rules of the game and play accordingly. So I don't know. I don't think that'll be the most popular opinion on this. I just feel like it isn't the win that it sees like it is because it still has the core problem of people missing payments. And if you lowering it, doesn't make me want to make my payment anymore. I don't think it helps, but I'll turn it over to you guys. Am I just being a killjoy on this? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and let me know what you think about the other stories as well. Of course, I'm very interested in our folks with business relationship managers with Capital One. I know we have a few out there. as well as what else have you seen going on in the news. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the news. So, of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. So we're posting content just like this every week, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that wasn't credit and finance. And, of course, online every day at profitablecontent.com. which is the channel's blog, where we post stories just like this as they come into the newsroom, which is just this room, I guess, as well as our credit card bonuses and bank bonuses as well, hence profitable content. So definitely go check that out if you're interested. It will be linked down below for you. But anyways, guys, that's good news for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you very soon this week.